I'm calling this meeting to order. Can you hear me? Okay. I'm calling this meeting to order. This is a regular business meeting of the Redmond City Council held on Tuesday, February 17th, 2026, commencing at 7 o'clock p.m. I was going to call roll, but we have all council members in attendance this evening. The first item on the agenda is items from the audience. I have the sign-in sheet for members of the public to speak tonight. When I read your name, you will come up to the podium and have 3 minutes to address the council. Council members generally will not respond to comments or questions directly at the meeting. Members of the public are welcome to email the council anytime at mayorcouncil@redmond.gov. The views stated by members of the public do not represent the opinion of the City of Redmond. As a reminder, RCW 29B45010 prohibits any public comment during the council meeting in support or opposition of ballot propositions, measures, or candidates. All comments must pertain to City of Redmond business as indicated on the sign-in sheet, and no one tonight has signed up to speak remotely. So usually what I do is call about 4 names so you know when you're up next, and you can just come on up. So we'll start with Sierra Madden, then Pat Vacher, then Axton Burton, and then James Webster. Right ahead.
Hello, Council President Stewart, Council Vice President Nueva Camina, and members of the Council. My name is Kira Madden, and I'm the External Engagement Coordinator for Plymouth Housing. Tonight, we wanted to celebrate the 2-year anniversary of the Redmond City Council vote that made Plymouth Housing in Redmond possible. 2 years ago, you acted with urgency and leadership to make our project a reality. We want to thank you for your action to bring 100 new units of permanent supportive housing to this amazing community. We recognize that this decision was not made lightly and that there was and continues to be strong interest in the project. But we are here tonight to share what that courageous vote made possible. Your decision affirmed that Redmond is a city that chooses compassion, partnership, and practical solutions, and we have been working ever since to live up to that choice. We've conducted robust community engagement, proactively reaching out to community members and creating opportunities for our future neighbors to ask questions, express concerns, and offer ideas about ways to integrate into the community. We established a community advisory group consisting of 10 members who were selected to reflect the diversity of Redmond's community. We tabled events like Derby Days, Move Redmond's One Open Streets Festival, Redmond Pride, and Redmond Lights. One 7-year-old Redmond community member told us authoritatively that we had the best booth at Redmond Lights this year, and we intend to keep that up again this December. Just as we found supporters and community champions for our work here in Redmond, they found us. A highlight of my job has been meeting and building relationships with the wonderful people that live and work here in Redmond. We've even had Redmond community members volunteer at our other buildings, demonstrating that good neighbors can extend their support beyond what's next door. They uphold what we believe is a shared mission, that everyone in our community deserves housing, support, and acceptance. We know that we'll continue to work together as our building finishes construction and eventually opens its doors next year. But tonight, we simply want to say thank you for your courage, your leadership, and for believing in this project and the importance of housing for people across all walks of life. Thank you.
Next is Pat Vacher, then Axton Burton, then James Webster, then Austin Aschenbrenner.
Good evening, Council and Mayor. My name is Pat Vacher. I'm a Redmond resident, and I was a member of the Community Advisory Group in the past year. I'm here with others to celebrate the 2nd anniversary of the approval of the Plymouth Permanent Supportive Housing Facility. I want to thank you, the mayor, the council, and staff for supporting this permanent supportive housing. At a council meeting 2 years ago, council made a very bold decision. The seemingly quickiness of this decision got me to asking, has Redmond's planning history laid a good foundation for permanent supportive housing facility in Redmond? One can use the Community Development Guide as a roadmap. In 1979, the City of Redmond implemented its first Community Development Guide. The plan was very scant on housing elements, but it did enumerate a single community housing goal, a goal that set assure good housing and a safe, healthful, and aesthetically pleasing living environment for all members of the community. That goal was supported with 10 policies, not the least of which was encourage diversity of household sizes, age groups, lifestyles, housing density, income levels, and housing types. Fast forward from that plan of 1979 to the 2050 plan, where there are now 4 policy objectives and multiple strategies. For instance, strategy H04, identify and pursue opportunities for partnerships and collaboration to increase resources for housing, to improve housing-related outcomes. Now, I intended to go into a bunch more details, but then I realized that I only have 3 minutes, not 3 years, to go into all the steps that have been taken since 1979. One that I do want to mention is the creation of ARCH, a regional coalition for housing. In creating ARCH, a majority of East Side cities began working together to ensure availability of housing that meets the needs of all income levels. The city first learned about Plymouth Housing Project in February of 2023, a year before Plymouth came to the city with an ask. At that time, when ARCH had sought and received funding for approval for the facility in Kenmore. The funding plan and the project were supported by the Redmond Housing Action Plan. Eventually, Kenmore withdrew from the project and asked Redmond for help. The ask came with plans and funding.
And in conclusion.
And in conclusion, Mayor, Council, staff, thank you for all the assistance you've provided to this project.
Next is Axton Burton, James Webster, Austin Aschenbrenner, then Aaron Hamilton.
Hello, howdy. Hi, Mayor Bernie and council members. My name is Axton Burton. I'm speaking today on behalf of myself as the Executive Director of Pride Across the Bridge and member of the Plymouth Housing Community Advisory Group. Having lived in Redmond for more than a decade and through my work in the community, I've experienced firsthand and supported community members through navigating the critical affordable housing crisis. I want to acknowledge and celebrate that this is the 2-year anniversary, and thank you to the council again for approving the Plymouth Housing Project. Throughout conversations, this project continues to give many of our communities hope. We are in a very real affordable housing crisis, and projects like this are not a casual agreement, but are a commitment to work, about people having safety, stability, and a place to safely breathe. Through my involvement with Plymouth Housing personally, through Pride Across the Bridge and the Community Advisory Group, I've gotten to see the level of detailed care, thoughtfulness, and collaboration that Plymouth Housing continues to bring to this work in its honest forms. Redmond leadership and our communities are truly fortunate to be working with such an experienced and community-centered partner. Thank you for your leadership and for the continued support of solutions to protect and strengthen our entire community. Thank you.
Next is James Webster, then Austin Aschenbrenner, then Aaron Hamilton, then Wolf Eduardo.
Hello. Hello, council, mayor, staff, friends, family. My name is James Webster. I was a longtime resident of Redmond. We recently moved to Woodinville, but I'd like to, first of all, express my gratitude for the Plymouth Housing Project here on its 2-year anniversary. I wanted to talk very briefly about the concept of taxes, that no one likes taxes, as we see that the highest echelons of our government are deeply, terrifyingly corrupt and filled with pedophiles. It's very hard to feel any level of civic engagement or civic pride when it comes to paying taxes. The levied taxes that we give to our federal and local levels have the capacity to do good things. They have the capacity to help our neighbors, to feed those who are hungry, to provide shelter for those who are needy, to raise us all up as we give to each other rather than to a small, terrifying few. This is something that I have felt very proud about, that in my time in Redmond, I was able to, through my money, to a certain degree, assist in this. I do not always feel proud about what my money goes to, but in this and in your acceptance of it and your continued commitment to it. I am proud, and I thank you.
Next is Austin Aschenbrenner, then Aaron Hamilton, the Wolf Adriatico, then Rachel King.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor Bernie and Council. My name is Austin Aschenbrenner, and I serve as a pastor at Redmond Presbyterian Church here in town, and I also had the pleasure of serving on the Community Advisory Group with Plymouth Housing. And I'm here tonight to add my voice to the voices that you've already heard to say thank you for your vote 2 years ago and to celebrate the brave work that you did to take that step. I initially joined on to the Community Advisory Group when I had heard some voices of anxiety and fear about this new property being built in our community. And I knew that most of those objections, all of them, were rooted in misinformation and misunderstanding of the gift of what this permanent supportive housing unit would bring to our community. We have learned through lots of evidence from what Plymouth has done and throughout King County that our community in Redmond will be stronger when everyone is given space and an opportunity to thrive. And these residents that will become new members of our community, our neighbors, will bring with them a wealth of gifts and insights and learning that all of us as Redmond citizens will benefit from. And so as a faith leader, I'm convinced that the gift here is that we will all grow mutually together as we work alongside our new neighbors, as we learn to love and care for one another in this new space. So again, echoing what you've heard tonight, I want to say thank you for your vision and your leadership for giving this project the green light and making this possible. Thank you again.
Next is Aaron Hamilton, then Wolf Adriatico, then Rachel King, then Errol Bagwat.
So these views are of my own, so you don't have to get all pissed off and email people and call people, but I'm super excited to attend Pride this year in Kirkland. I would say that I would hope that this was a wake-up call for you, but I also thought that a specific social media post was enough of a wake-up call of what's going on in this city. A social media post that I'm still waiting for an apology, my community is still waiting for an apology that we haven't gotten yet, is a wake-up call, but I don't think it's going to really change anything. But anyways, I spent the last 2 days down in Olympia fighting for, once again, my community, my rights and my community's rights and my way of life. But more importantly, we have to fight even harder to protect our trans kids in our very own communities. Anti-trans states like Idaho have already made an announcement that they're going to start using flock cameras and flock data to track families that cross the border to provide their kids with trans health care. And they're going to use these systems anywhere in Washington to get this information so that they can arrest the parents when they go back into the state and prosecute them for harming their child. This is just another reason where flock is not good for our communities and that we need to do better and we need to put a stop to this mass surveillance that these states and agencies are using to attack our most vulnerable community members. And hopefully this new information that conservative states are using will be added to the Redmond Police Department's flock success stories of outing trans kids. But yeah, let's see, what else can I talk about? I'm so early. Yeah, so it's very disappointing with the Democratic Party, which is my Democratic Party, that doesn't seem to care about the trans community. And I don't think you realize how much it hurts that neither any of you or politicians in the Democratic Party can even say the word transgender in public or privately. For some reason, that word is no longer in your vocabulary. You politicians and Democrats keep twisting trans issues into LGBTQ+ problems. And it's very tiring, and I believe, and we deserve better. We deserve to be acknowledged. And in conclusion, it's not a bad word. You're allowed to say it. And I urge you to actually say transgender in public, and not because you're forced to.
Next is Wolf Adriatico, then Rachel King, then Errol Bagwat, then Linda Seltzer.
Hello. Not too much today. I wanted to say that the city very disproportionately provides support to already wealthy non-LGBTQ citizens, now introducing steep paywalls to formerly free educational activities at the old Firehouse Teen Center, which is now closed. The school system fails to be a safety net for all youth. Anecdotally, there is rampant drug use across the board in schools, and it very much endangers at-risk teens, and especially those who are prone to rebounding, I'd say, I guess. For those people, the old firehouse was a safety net that did work. For those who fell through the gaps, it had free food, it had YES counseling, there were practical education opportunities. It was a third space that fostered a safe, drug-free, tight-knit community. And the removal of these spaces is very much deliberate. And it's not limited to just the teen center. You've been hearing it a lot the past few meetings, is the city's been removing everyone's third spaces, whether that's a teen center or a cafe or a gun range. And it's not a sustainable path. Thank you.
Next is Rachel King, then Errol Bagwat, then Linda Seltzer, then Jackie Kimsey.
Good night, everybody. Thanks for your time and for all that you do for our city. I wanted to speak a little bit about the Redmond Pool. And I've been a resident of the Redmond City for over 25 years. And I am raising 4 children, which 2 of them are competitive swimmers. And we used the Redmond Pool a lot until the pool was remodeled. Ever since then, it's almost impossible to get in the pool because my kids have to go to school. And after school, I understand that the pool is being used for girls' high school swimming team, which I strongly support. And it's also being used for the boys' high school swimming team, which I also support. The problem is that between the hours of 4 and 8 o'clock, nobody else can use the pool. The shallow end is reserved for lessons for younger kids, which is, again, I strongly support it, especially on the shallow end. But for those kids who know how to swim, who would like access to a lap lane to practice or for swim, they don't have any access. Currently, Wave Aquatics is a private team, and they take over all 6 lanes as soon as the high school is out. Being in the swimming community for at least, I'll say, 12 years, no other pool in the area dedicate all lanes to swim teams. Boehm will use 2 to 3 lanes for the swimming teams that rent their pool, and the other 3 lanes are open for public swimming for lap, because some kids want just to have the opportunity to swim. The same thing happens at the Bellevue Aquatic Center, which is a little bit of a unique situation because they have a bigger pool. And I would like to ask the city to look at possibilities to talking to the Parks and Recreation or Wave Aquatics. I already tried to contact them over the last few years about this with no success, but I would like to ask you to look at this because we have a huge amount of youth that not necessarily can be doing after-school activities or camps. We have no activities for middle schoolers and high schoolers. And tell them, just volunteer. There's just so much volunteer that they can do. They need an outlet and a place to go swimming. My senior recently quit his swimming team because he has to focus on getting ready for college. And him and 6 other friends are desperate because they can't find access to a swimming pool. We are currently looking at driving to Bowen in Issaquah, or Bellevue, or Seattle.
And in conclusion,
And so if you could have a chance to look at that, and also the discrepancy in charge, the prices for usage of the pool, that would be great. Thank you so much for your time.
next is Errol Bagwad, then Linda Seltzer, then Jackie Kimsey, then David Morton. Ariel? Anil. Sorry, it's Anil. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's okay, that's okay.
Apologies.
No problem. Thank you for giving me the time. Appreciate it. My name is Anil Bhagwat. I've been living in Redmond City for about 21 years. Recently, I had a chance to talk to the community engagement leader in City of Bellevue. And she gave me, while I was talking, I learned about 3 programs that are conducted in City of Bellevue that I thought were extremely remarkable. And I was wondering if this is something that City of Redmond can implement as well. The 3 specific programs, the first one was something called as Signature Streets. This is where all the 16 neighborhoods in City of Bellevue, the residents come together on a monthly basis, and they help clean up the litter on the street. I thought that was really wonderful. I didn't actually participate or see it in action, but from talking to some of the other people in City of Bellevue, it sounded like a very well conducted program, and I think that would be something, a nice addition to City of Redmond. The second one was the Adopt a Street. This was, again, very elaborate. On the City of Bellevue side, there is a map. You can select which street that you want to adopt. There are certain conditions, criteria, and I thought that was very remarkable. That is something that here in Redmond would be really, really helpful if that is an opportunity. And then the third one was very interesting. It was called as the Cultural Conversations. So this is where a lot of people in the community come together every single month. And there are various topics that they select to bring the community together. The one that I was able to attend had about 60-ish people. And the topic was how intergenerational people interact with each other, how they live and support each other. And it was very interactive. It just felt like the entire community was coming together. And that is another thing that would be really worthwhile to consider. It happens every single month, and the topics are selected. I heard that it can vary from 40 to 80 people. There were roundtables, discussions. It was very, very engaging. I thought it was very, very interesting. So I just wanted to put that in front of the council and hope that this will be considered. So thanks a lot. Appreciate it.
Next is Linda Seltzer, then Jackie Kimsey, then David Morton.
My name is Linda Seltzer. I live in a senior apartment complex in Redmond. January 30th, email from the Redmond City Government Comprehensive Plan Amendment applications due April 1st. To begin this process, the city informs the community and city staff of the opportunity to submit proposals to amend the comprehensive plan. Pre-application review forms are due March 15th. On the same day, I replied to the staff members named Jeff Churchill and Glenn Coyle with my proposal for an amendment that would repeal incentives for the demolition of my apartment complex where I live and make 65 people homeless at less than 50% of the median income to accommodate only 12 affordable apartments or 12 to 24 people in the 50 to 80% range as the affordable housing incentive for new apartment buildings. I provided an introduction to this. On February 2nd, Glenn Coyle replied and said he would reach out for a meeting. On February 10th, he sent email describing the process. I was surprised to learn that there are fees that could total more than $25,000, which is nothing to a developer, but prohibitive for renters trying to prevent their own homelessness and the demolition of the stable housing. I replied expressing this concern and copied the mayor and council. Note that this is the city government promoting this iatrogenic policy problem, not the owners and not the developers. The city is causing this problem. On February 13th, with 2 weeks of time delays from my being able to get assistance in writing an amendment and participating in the process, I received email from Sarah Fee Allen closing my case and listing all the arguments opposing my amendment rather than helping to advocate for our housing stability of the senior citizens in my apartment complex and the complex next door with seniors and refugees and workers. She identified previous processes. I participated in those processes, but no one cared. Again, this is the city creating this problem, not the property owners and not the developers. So now we have a pay-to-play code process where people who can afford $25,000 can write a code amendment, which is really supposed to be the job of the city council for legislation, but renters have no opportunity to prevent these processes in which the city could create our homelessness. And where's the email telling me that my case is, and then I receive email telling me my case is closed. Not one city council member has responded to this concern, and none have open office hours posted in the council website. Not one city council member came up and talked to me today about the email that I sent. I will be interested in seeing who actually supports preserving senior apartments and refugees and low-income workers and keeping my street zoned such that this is not going to happen. Either change the zoning of our street or repeal this process or allow people to make these amendments for free with our assistance by March 15th. I will be monitoring this.
Next is Jackie Kimsey, then David Morton.
Hello, my name is Jacqueline Kimsey, and I'm a Redmond City resident concerned for my safety and the safety of my neighbors. Unfortunately, the Redmond Police Department is championing a mass surveillance system that threatens our right to privacy and puts our safety at risk. The flock cameras that were installed around Redmond collected a mass amount of data on innocent residents before it was disabled, and all that data is ripe for abuse. The University of Washington Center for Human Rights has revealed that the U.S. Border Patrol may have already accessed data from flock cameras in several cities across the state, in some cases without explicit authorization. Phil Neff from the UW Center for Human Rights said, quote, "Huge amounts of information about the movements of Washington state residents that advocates fear could be used for civil immigration enforcement for things like criminalization of access to reproductive health care in Washington state or gender-affirming care in Washington state." We have already seen ICE officers terrorize and detain residents, including Native American Elaine Miles, known for her role in Northern Exposure, right here in Redmond. The federal government has plans to occupy more cities and disappear more residents going forward. We must do everything in our power to protect the civil rights of our residents. Flock mass surveillance camera does the exact opposite of protection and puts more people at risk of oppression. Quote, one of our major concerns with this technology is that currently no state regulation in place around how the technology can be used, how that data is stored, or who it can be shared with. And that's why we're seeing a lot of these risks and harms taking place today. T. Shannon, Technology Policy Program Director at the ACLU of Washington, said. Mass surveillance systems like the ones Redmond PD wants have been implemented in other countries, like China, Russia, and North Korea. Each one claimed their mass surveillance systems were built to improve safety. However, they were instead used to crush protests and arrest civil rights leaders. Do we really want to live under an oppressive system like that? I don't want Redmond's flock cameras to become part of an authoritarian mass surveillance state. That's why I'm here asking you to cover flock cameras, then remove them to protect Redmond residents' liberty. As our founding father, Benjamin Franklin, explains, quote, those who would give up essential liberty to purchase a little temporary safety deserve neither liberty nor safety. Thank you.
Next is David Morton.
Good evening, council members and mayor. I'm David Morton. I'd like to raise urgent concerns about the Evans Creek relocation project. The project site includes the former all-wood recycling property, where a massive fire started on August 21st, 2013, burning a 70-foot tall pile of wood debris covering 200 by 300 feet. For days, over 60 firefighters responded, using firefighting foam that most likely contained PFAS. That site was already polluted before the fire and has never been tested for PFAS. Washington State Ecology's database confirms it's awaiting cleanup with suspected and confirmed soil and groundwater contamination. The all-wood recycling site, now called DTG, sits in Cara 1, meaning that groundwater from there can reach Redmond's municipal drinking water wells within 5 years. Redmond's groundwater studies show that the aquifer flows west-southwestward at about 2 or 3 feet per day from the DTG site toward wells 1 and 2, which now exceed EPA's PFAS limits. I'm deeply troubled that the city plans to excavate and relocate a creek that runs through possible PFAS-polluted land without first testing for PFAS. PFAS are called forever chemicals because they don't break down. Studies show that the dangerous PFAS from firefighting foam can persist for centuries in the environment at levels thousands of times above regulatory limits. Since 2018, monitoring wells have detected PFAS in Redmond's aquifer. As of January 2026, wells 1 and 2 show PFOS levels above EPA's enforceable limit. The city's own data confirm this. Redmond has spent $5.6 million over 15 years on the Evans Creek relocation project, while negotiations with King County continue. But testing for PFAS at the excavation site is not mentioned in tonight's presentation on the creek relocation project. Before you dig up that contaminated creek bed, before you relocate thousands of cubic yards of potentially PFAS-laden sediment, before you risk spreading PFAS contamination throughout the floodplain and further into Redmond's drinking water aquifer, test the site for PFAS. I ask for one thing: conduct comprehensive PFAS testing of soil, sediment, and groundwater at the DTG site before creek relocation begins. Don't proceed with a $3 million cost overrun on a project that could make Redmond's water crisis worse. The community deserves to know what's in that ground before you move it. Thank you.
Items from the audience is now closed. Our next item of business is the consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Are there any items to be pulled tonight? Hearing none, I do not have anything to read into the record. This can be a voice vote. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 7-0.
Just want to make a
Council President Stewart.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mayor Bernie. I just wanted to make a comment really quickly to thank all of our Committee of the Whole chairs and our directors. All of our Committee of the Whole work plans for 2026 have been approved. Our goal was to get it done by the end of February, and well done, Team Redmond. So I just wanted to thank everyone. This wouldn't have been possible without the excellent preparation from the directors at the top of the year. So thank you so much, everyone.
Great news. Thank you so much. Next is our staff reports. Our next item of business is a staff report, Evans Creek Relocation Project Update. Director Burt will introduce this item.
Is this thing on? All right, here we go. Council members, good evening. Aaron Burt, Public Works Director, here to provide you an update on our Evans Creek relocation project. We've talked about this several times over the past year. Council is aware that we're working through some regulatory issues that have caused a delay in the start of this project. So the project goals are fourfold. One is to improve salmon habitat. The second is to restore natural wetlands in the Evans Creek area. Third one is to enhance community recreation because it creates new pathways for the community to enjoy in there. And then also to advance regional salmon recovery goals as part of our participation in the RIA 8 Chinook Conservation Plan. So a brief project overview. This is northeast Redmond, right there on the city line. What you can see is Evans Creek right now currently runs through some industrial land. The intent is to move the creek, create a new creek bed, move it north of the city line into unincorporated King County, thus creating that natural habitat and natural state. Long project timeline on this, beginning around 2009 when this was first conceived. It was a staff working with stakeholders and coming up with the concept for this project. There were a lot of unknowns. The city had never done a project like this. A lot of projects like this had not been done here in Western Washington. So it took staff working with stakeholders some time to come up with the project concept and then also the implementation and design plan. Back in 2019, the design began to get finalized. That's when the city really began to work with external stakeholders seeking external dollars for this project. And then we moved into the 2021 when the first round of permitting actions were undertaken, working with the feds and the state. Once we got the Fed compliance and the state compliance on SEPA, we're able to move into the, I would say, challenging permitting process with King County. And the big component on that with King County was, as I think I mentioned when we introduced the staff report, King County had never permitted a project like this before. So it was very difficult for them to determine what components of the code to apply to such a project. And that's what we're working through right now, which has also contributed to the delay in the project implementation. Spend to date has been about $5.5 million for a combination of the acquisition of right-of-way and then also consulting and design work. And those costs of the $4.2 million is a combination of both city costs and direct contracting costs with our contractor of record is a firm called HDR that has done quite a bit of work with this city over the years. So right now, where we're at with the county and the discussions that we're having with the county, we're in the permitting and county discussions. We initially applied for the clearing and grading permit back in 2021. Middle of COVID, county was facing many of the same issues that we were here at the city. Different reviewers got assigned to this, a lot of unknowns, and we kind of went through a cycle where a new reviewer would be assigned to the permit, and we had to start the education process all over again, which contributed to the delay. The big thing that was a benefit for us was the conditional letter of map revision, or a thing called a CLOMAR, that we submitted to FEMA. And essentially what this did was, because the area has to be considered a floodplain or a flood area, we had to delineate basically what we were stating that were going to be the project boundaries and the high water mark. That's very important when it comes to flood zone mapping, and FEMA accepted that. What we then ran up against was King County said, hey, we need that CLOMAR accepted by FEMA. We got that back from FEMA, but then it turned into this issue about the permitting and how will the county apply the permitting standards, especially when it comes to bridges, to this project. The county's original stance was that we needed basically a 3-foot clearance between the high water mark and the bottom of the bridge. It sounds kind of esoteric or kind of wonky, but what that's designed to do is to prevent the bridge from collapsing if there's some sort of flooding event and large woody debris or something else flows down through the stream channel, and they don't want it knocking out the bridge. That 3-foot clearance is a standard that applies to most road bridges, but we are making the argument that you only need a 1-foot standard on a low-flowing stream. That would be Evans Creek. That would be, drawing a blank, that would be in that stream channel area. But it's kind of one of these technical components here with the regulatory agency. We have to demonstrate that there is not a risk to that bridge, and they're working through that process right now. The other aspect of this is that since this is the first type of project that King County is undertaking, there's an issue about operations and maintenance. How will the new stream channel be cared for and maintained over the life of the project? Well, when you talk about relocating a stream, we believe that it's in perpetuity. We're creating a new stream channel, we're creating new habitat. Normally in these types of agreements that you have with the county, or when you do a new project, new plannings, you put a timeline on that project for the plantings to take hold and the care and feeding of that project. You put a 10 to 20 year time frame on that. Usually that gives you enough time for the trees and the plantings to take hold. The county originally came back and basically said, we want Redmond to take responsibility for this project in perpetuity. Our stance was that doesn't really make a lot of sense for us based on the nature of the project and then what we expect the functions and values of the project to bring to the area. We're still working through that nuance, and I think we'll probably end up coming to some language that maybe is about a 50-year time frame or something along those lines. But that's something that we'll be bringing to council once we're able to get that tied in. So I'm talking about the maintenance and operations agreement. Why is it needed? It is unprecedented from King County's perspective. We believe that, a project like this, there's going to be a natural meandering of the stream, a natural order to the establishment of a new stream channel. The county is looking at it from a risk perspective of, well, what happens if Evans Creek spills its banks and a new channel is created? Now you're preventing the possibility of individuals where that land, or who owns that land, where the creek is going through, they may not be able to develop in the future. So I know our city attorney's been involved in this as we're dealing with the nuances and really what is that risk register that we're willing to accept, but I think we're very close as we move forward on this. We have been through 2 rounds of legal review and back and forth with the county. We have a bi-weekly meeting set up with the county right now as we're slowly working and checking off the various outstanding issues. So we have a very strong working relationship with the county right now. They're digging in, they're understanding what our concerns are, and we're making tremendous headway. What we will be doing is when this operations and maintenance agreement is finalized, we'll figure out the vehicle in which the city will adopt it through our council process and also the King County Council. There is a typo here on the slide where we say the King County Council approval process, 6 to 9 months. That's not going to be the case. We've been able to work with Councilmember Perry and also the government affairs folks in Water and Land Resources, Department of Natural Resources and Parks, and that should probably be about a 3 to 4 month process to get through the King County side of the house, much like we're facing here. Talked a bit about risk management. Won't go over that again. Anticipated costs and timeline increases. This $3 million is worst case scenario on the cost overruns. We've applied an inflator to the project cost where we assume, based on the type of work that needs to happen and the delays we've had, we've been putting that at roughly $1 million a year. I don't know I would say I don't know if that is going to be the final number. It all depends on when we can get the agreements in hand and if we can go to bid this year for this project. I don't anticipate it being $3 million, but we'll have more to follow on that. A question came up when we introduced this for the staff report about funding availability, and Councilmember Kritzer mentioned the King County Conservation District and the Flooding District. We did look into that, and if we tap both of those resources, it does look like we might be able to get up to $1.5 million reimbursed through those projects. So we're definitely going to pursue that as that goes forward. The timeline, as mentioned below, is if we can get this wrapped up here in the spring, we do anticipate being able to go to bid in late summer, early fall, with construction starting in 2027. That's the end of my presentation. I do want to address Dr. Morton and his comments about PFAS testing. So we have a monitoring well that is just south of the Evans Creek location, and to date, we have not detected any PFAS in that monitoring well. As part of our ongoing process for our monitoring wells, 45 wells in the city, we will be testing that as part of our testing protocol moving forward here in the springtime. Part of this project does have a soil evacuation mitigation plan. That's standard practice for us. Soil testing is an option for us, and we are continuing to explore that. I think some of the information about the DTG site, yes, there was a fire on site. The records that we were able to work with fire to receive is that the response to that fire at the time, back in 2013, the fire department used water and a Silvex fire foam, which does not have PFAS in it. But we are evaluating that component of if we do need to do soil testing, once we get closer to the project, we will do so. The other component that we have is that there is an option in which to do this construction where we do not have to excavate in the DTG site for the stream bed, which would mean we would not be disturbing the soil at that site. So as we get closer to that and finalize our plan, I'm happy to come back to the council to talk about that a little bit further for the execution on that, but pending your questions.
Great. Thank you, Director Burt. Can you take the presentation down?
I will.
That would be great. And I appreciate you responding to the comments that we had from items from the audience as well as some emails we've received. Appreciate it. Questions for Director Burt? Councilmember Kritzer.
Thank you so much for the update, Director Byrd, and I really appreciate your work and the staff's work and the mayor's work to be able to figure this out with King County. It is really a priority project and a key one that we can do to contribute to Chinook recovery here in our city. And I appreciate the discussion around the testing and options to be able to make sure that this is going to be as healthy a waterway as possible.
Absolutely.
My understanding of why it is, when you actually you look at the map of that project, you can see that right now the reason we want to do this project is because it runs right next to this industrial area, and our goal is to get it out into its original areas away from the industrial area, and hopefully to be as healthy a waterway for our salmon and our communities as possible. So I think thinking about what can we do to not carry forward anything that's come from the existing areas is really, I'll just look forward to hearing the updates on that. One thing I just wanted to clarify on the risk mitigation. So is the main structure risk that that King County is concerned about, is that bridge issue, or are there other kind of properties nearby that they have concerns about?
Originally, they wanted us to take risk liability for any component of Evans Creek spilling its banks, right? So we had to come back and define that there's a natural flow to a stream, but you can't hold us accountable for something that maybe is happening 300, 400 yards away from the delineated stream bed or a stream edge that may impact a parcel, across the street or down in that area, away from the project. So the risk component that we've been able for them to see is that there is a natural flow to that river, or not river, excuse me, wish it was a river, to that stream. And in doing so, there's only kind of like a finite area that we would be responsible for. The concern on the bridge, and I think they're beginning to understand that the flow of Evans Creek is not going to be something that would be a torrent flow. It's a very low flow, slow moving creek that is not going to, even in a high water event, is going to be pushing anything down the stream that would cause massive damage to a bridge across the creek.
Councilmember Forsyth?
Councilmember Kritzer covered a lot of what I was thinking, but thank you for the presentation. This is a good level set for all of us, even for me. Having this project predated me is still a good refresher and reminder. Definitely very interested in the soil samples in the future and all of those options that you laid out, and really appreciate you addressing the comments and concerns from community. One thing that was running through my mind that I can't recall, and maybe you will be able to, this is definitely a floodplain. How frequently do we see this flood? It's been a while since I recall it last flooding.
I can't say off the top of my head, but it is not a high flood area, just due to the topography of the stream and just the nature of the flows in that area.
Okay.
But I can double check with staff and get back to you on that.
That would be great for us to have moving forward. And just understanding that the main goal here is relocating this to its original trajectory and keeping it out of that industrial zone. I think this is still a very worthwhile project, but I appreciate all of the proactive things we can do to make sure that we're not disturbing the land and the PFAS in the area if there are any.
Yep.
Councilmember Precria.
Thank you, and thank you, Director Burt, for the presentation. This is a very, very minor thing, but given that this is a relatively high-profile and long-standing project, I would just love to see the delays incorporated onto the city website, because right now, anyone in the public who goes and looks up Evans Creek sees that construction started in 2025 and it will be completed in 26. So just a very, very small change, but would love to see the new.
We'll make sure we get that updated.
Awesome,
Thank you.
Council President?
Thank you so much, Director Burt. As my colleagues have said, this is very helpful. I would also echo, because this is such a long-standing project, there aren't many of us left who've actually toured the site. Myself included have never toured the site, even though we went to Olympia to get the original dollars for this project. So potential, if there's interest from the council, this could be a great field trip with someone from your team in the spring. Thank you.
Yeah, we'd happy to set something up. Bring
Or
your,
s- or
bring your
summer.
boots.
Depending on the spring. Yeah, it has been a long time, and project's been going on even longer than I've been around. So it's great to hear that there's progress, and I appreciate the update. Any other questions for Director Burt this evening? Well, thank you so much, and appreciate the tenacity and diligence for possibly getting this done. Thank you.
We'll get there. Thank you.
Absolutely. The next item of business is a staff report, World Cup planning update, public safety and emergency management focus. Deputy Director Allen will introduce this item.
Okay. Let's try again. Testing.
We're getting an echo.
Okay, there we go. I think we got it.
All right, thank you.
Okay. All right. All right, so this is the second. First of all, my name is Seraphy Allen, Deputy Director of Planning and Community Development, and I'm very excited to be joined by our Deputy Police Chief, Brian Coates, and we'll be having Nathan Hupp also presenting our Emergency Manager later this evening. So this is the second of World Cup program staff report. We'll be providing additional reports later this year, but as requested by the council and the mayor, we're going to have this report focused specifically on public safety and emergency response and how we're preparing for that for the World Cup coming this summer. Before we get into those, though, I wanted to provide kind of a brief overview of our agenda, which will have the program overview and opportunities. We'll have our subgroup report outs and from public safety and emergency preparedness, and then I'll provide a consolidated report on other key action items that are happening, and then talk about how council can be engaged. So first, just as a reminder, the World Cup is coming. It is really close, and it will be between June 11th and July 19th. We'll have 6 matches in Seattle, but there will also be many other matches that'll be happening overall, and there's a lot more details in the memo, but just wanted to provide these up here on the screen as a reminder. We now know which teams will be playing each other, and we've had community apply for community watch grants, but this is just such an exciting opportunity that we have coming to our region. And then I wanted to flag that we'll have the final match happening on July 19th, which will be in New York, but we have something special planned here in Redmond that I'll talk about later. So as a reminder, we have a number of cross-departmental staff that are working on this project. I just want to say it's truly been such a collaborative effort. We have a subgroup that's led by the planning department called the World Cup Watch Party and Activations. We have emergency management leading the emergency preparedness subgroup. We met today. We had the public safety response. We have communications leading group. We have operations and logistics being led by our deputy director in parks, Zach, and then finance, and then an internal city work group. So there's lots going on about how we can prepare for this event. And now we'll focus on the public safety response, and I'll turn it over to Deputy Chief Coates.
Thank you, Seraphy. Yes, we are all very excited for this event to come to the region, but we also have to keep in mind the safety and security that goes into an event like this to make sure it's fun, inviting, and welcoming for everybody. Part of the public safety response is we have a rather robust patrol staffing plan for the basically 2 months of the World Cup. That includes extra staffing on game days, a lot of officers and staff on overtime. Everybody gets to play, so whether you wear a uniform or not in the day in life of a police officer, everyone gets to participate in this. There's a lot of unknowns with World Cup specific to Redmond, but what we can predict with almost 100% certainty is we're going to have a big influx of pedestrian traffic and vehicle traffic as people migrate to downtown to be the first on the train heading west to Seattle. So on those days, you can expect to see a lot of officers downtown on foot, in cars, on bicycle for the greatest mobility and approachability. One thing for your awareness is the City of Seattle has reached out to every city in the state and surrounding states for law enforcement assistance. We are declining to do that so far, and our priority is to take care of Redmond. So that's what we will do, and we will not go to Seattle absent something very exigent requiring all hands on deck. Part of our staffing model will include the continued activation and expanded hours of our real-time information center. And the benefit of this is staff viewing traffic cameras and any other cameras to see where resources need to be reallocated based on the need, where traffic and pedestrian is built up and needs a little extra attention. You're very well aware of our Drone as a First Responder program. Drones will be very beneficial in a situation like this so that they can dispatch to reported problem areas within a minute, minute and a half, check the scene to see if officers on the ground are even necessary. As I may have mentioned before, we have the benefit of having an embedded analyst from the Fusion Center embedded with our Criminal Investigations Division. This analyst is able to give us weekly updates on soccer matches that have occurred nationally and worldwide, and provides kind of that awareness of what's going on globally for things that we need to be aware of. We had the draw on December 10th, and if you're an analyst, now you can really start digging into the intelligence report based on what countries are coming to the Seattle area so that we can prepare accordingly. As you may or may not be aware, the Senate passed, or the legislature passed House Bill 1515, allowing for expanded alcohol service onto the city's right-of-way. We did apply as a city for that permit and received authorization to have expanded alcohol service from May 1st until the end of the year. Individual bars, restaurants, taverns who wish to participate still need to apply for a permit through the Liquor Control Board and through the City of Redmond permit process. And then finally, unfortunately, with large-scale events like this, it does bring the possibility of human trafficking. So we have, as a police department, every officer is going through an FBI-sponsored training on how to recognize, identify, and respond to human trafficking. We are also in the process of entering a contract with BEST, which BEST is Businesses Ending Slavery and Trafficking. And for this contract, they're going to provide online training in human trafficking for up to 250 Redmond City staff and 2,500 members of the business community. We have also talked with the Port of Seattle officials who are kind of experts in this area, have exchanged information, and they are providing us flyers and business cards with QR codes so we can place in all the hotels should a victim of human trafficking or a witness of human trafficking so they can report. So we'll take the port's QR code and then Redmondize it so people can contact the local authorities. That's what I have for public safety, and next I'll turn it over to Nathan Hupp, the city emergency manager you met during committee today.
Good evening, Nathan Hupp, Emergency Manager. So I'd start off with regional and state preparedness. So the local organizing committee has been preparing for several years, so that includes partners with Washington Emergency Management Division, the City of Seattle, federal and regional agencies, and then private organizations like Sound Transit. So this is really where that advanced coordination and complex preparedness planning is occurring. And so those partners have been offering several key training and exercise opportunities that city employees have attended or will attend. So the first one is the Secret Service will be providing a security briefing at the end of February, so several staff members will be attending that. Several staff members also attended the Sound Transit Tabletop exercise with the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency. It's a mouthful. That's CISA. And we learned some good takeaways from that. And then we'll also be attending the World Cup Planning Symposium in March, and that is being hosted by Washington Emergency Management, City of Seattle, and King County. So now focusing kind of on the Redmond preparedness. So our focus will be on consequence management, continuity of operations, and then really just trying to minimize that negative impact to residents. As it relates to plans, so the city's been updating various emergency preparedness plans, which covers kind of really how we perform key functions for all hazards. And then we're also developing an overarching World Cup event plan, and that'll be developed involving kind of each department and relevant stakeholders. For training and exercises, staff are really benefiting from FIFA being in the region and having this event by offering additional training opportunities we might not have had, as well as we're participating in numerous exercises. A joint tabletop exercise is being hosted here in Redmond with the cities of Bellevue and Kirkland, and that'll occur on April 6th. And really that's just to prepare for various kind of World Cup incident specific scenarios, as well as test and validate the planes we'll be creating. For our emergency notification system, I mentioned this early today at committee. So the city is actively implementing a new emergency notification system before World Cup activities. And then a feature of that new system is the ability to create a keyword. You can text to sign up and receive Redmond-focused World Cup-related updates. And so this is a great way to connect with those visitors to our area who want a fast and easy way to sign in without fully opting into the full system and entering in their information. We're also developing 3 safety campaigns, and we'll be promoting and conducting outreach in the May timeframe. So those 3 will focus on situational awareness, how to stay informed, kind of tied to Everbridge, and then see something, say something. For business risk reduction, all fire prevention staff will be going through crowd manager training so that they can more easily detect any unsafe conditions, say at like a pop-up event or a watch party. And then any businesses interested in training staff on crowd management, they can get more information from our fire department. And I believe we're also creating a business resources with that embedded on there. So I'll turn it over to Seraphy.
Thank you, Nathan. Thanks to both of you. So just to provide some more quick touch base, more information was included in your memo, but we really wanted tonight to be focused more on the emergency management and public safety. But the other subgroups have also been very busy working on our World Cup community grants, working on getting World Cup banners on some of our light and utility poles. Thank you and shout out to Public Works for partnering on that. We received the test banners recently. We also have Parks working on the Legacy Sign Project, which will be these big big concrete letters that say Redmond in the downtown park. We passed, thanks to the council, the short-term rental code changes, and information has gone out about that. And in our next meeting, I'm hoping to come back with if we've had any big increase in people applying for business licenses for the World Cup. Communications has been busy, and I just saw today the really great story, the soccer stories, which is community members writing in their soccer story, and then we're giving out swag, and they're getting to come to City Hall, another way that we're having government reaching out with community in a really connective way. And then in communications, we'll be including a World Cup poster and some information about how people can attend these World Cup community grants and get more engaged in the spring-focused newsletter. So keep your eyes out for that one. And then I just wanted to give a shout out for some of the sponsorship dollars we've gotten, especially from Amazon. We signed an agreement with Redmond Town Center where Amazon has sponsored a purchase of a large screen, and we've worked with Redmond Town Center to create an agreement where they'll get to show up to 6 matches or more in their Redmond Town Center. So both using private dollars to help fund a community watch parties at Redmond Town Center and bring people together. So just want to give that one a special shout out. And that took people from finance, legal, and just one of those things where you get all different kinds of city staff together. And finally, the Meet Me at Marymore, we applied for a FIFA license to be able to show the final match on July 19th at Marymore Park, where the concert series happens, and more to come on that. So I just wanted to, I'm not going to go through all these, but these were the number of activities we completed in 2025, but staff have been busy with light rail openings and lots of different World Cup activations. And then for 2026 key dates, of course, we have on March 28th, the light rail Cross Lake Connection, and that was a really key and important thing for especially Redmond with our connectivity to Seattle for people to be able to get to the games. We have the Red Link launch, and you received some email communication about that. We'll be having the soft launch starting next week, and hopefully with a full launch starting the week of March 9th. And we'll be coming to the council later just to talk about that topic in April. And then on February 9th and coming up in May 11th, we'll have another small business quarterly community meeting. And then we have the Football for All series, where I can't believe we've already had 2 done since I made this PowerPoint, and we've got the 3rd one coming up here in March. And then on May 2nd, Parks will be working with the Rave Foundation for doing a free play day. And then again, we already talked about the Meet Me at Marymore event, which will have more details to come in future staff reports. So lastly, just like to say how council can get involved or community, but by promoting Redmond's Ready for the World programming, by attending events, which you all have been doing already. Thank you to Council President Stewart for introducing one of our Football for All speakers last week, and Vice President Nueva Camina for introducing the prior one before that. Share what you've been hearing from constituents about the World Cup. Share with them redmond.gov/soccer so they can know how to get involved. And then be aware and help support the emergency preparedness and trainings procedures that you heard about tonight. So with that, I just want to share too, we have staff online from some of the other committees, but I'll hope to try and help answer any police or emergency related questions, but we can also follow up later with any of the other ones. So with that, we'll take any questions.
Great, thank you. Can you take down the PowerPoint?
Done.
Thank you so much. You knew what I was going to ask. Any questions for staff tonight? Council Member Soni.
Thank you so much for such amazing presentation. This is really very exciting and looking forward for all of these dates to happen and the excitement. Just one question when we are talking about, we spoke about the safety and fire emergency with the fire department and the preparedness for that. I'm just a little concerned. What about the medical preparedness in these kinds of a scenario? Specifically, it's summer. Then second thing, it's like, anytime with these big groups, like COVID has taught us some good lessons. So just want to ensure that we also have some protocols or some kind of a preparedness related with the medical emergencies as well.
Great. Nathan, I'm not sure if you want to take that one, or Ami. That might be a good question, or maybe it might be something we need to follow back up on later.
We have Chief Shepherd here as well.
Chief Shepherd, perfect.
We'll talk both soccer and medical emergencies.
Hi, Councilmember. Can you repeat the question, please?
So I was asking specifically about the preparedness for any kind of medical emergencies, like, with big groups and people coming together, plus summer. So is there any specific plan that has been put in place for these kinds of emergency situations as well?
Absolutely. I appreciate the question. Yes, so we realize that there's actually going to be a surge and an impact with a lot of people being in the area, and that actually delaying our response by way of being mounted on a vehicle or something like that. So the department's gotten together, the operations chief is working on a plan to make sure that we reconstitute our bike medic patrol. And so we will be able to get in and out of an impacted area quite quickly, typically a 5 to 6 minute response time. We'll be working collaboratively with the police department, as you heard earlier, with their drone capabilities. They'll have visibility and be able to guide us in more rapidly. But our rapid response will come by way of a bike team. All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Council Member Forsyth.
Thank you. And thank you all for the presentation and the thoughtfulness and the collaboration across the city. Always great to see. My question centers around the human trafficking part of the planning. We always see a surge of human trafficking with large-scale events like this, as you noted. Really encouraged to see the group that you're working with and the literature and the training that's going to go out. Is there an opportunity for council and or community orgs to partake in any of those trainings?
Well, I would say absolutely. Part of the contract with BEST is up to 250 city staff, so we will make sure that you're included when that gets communicated out to the rest of the city. Absolutely.
Fantastic. Thank you. And I know your team's going to crush it, so this is great, and the planning that's going into it. One thing I'm curious also about, and maybe that group will have thoughts about it, the QR codes are great, but we know that a lot of people that are human trafficked don't have access to technology. So I'm really definitely interested in what other alternatives there are for people who may find themselves in that situation but don't actually have technology to use something like a QR code. So I will stay tuned and I will look for that opportunity to take that training. Thank you.
Thank you. Council President.
Thank you so much, team. Really appreciate all the work that's going on to help us prepare for the big day. I had a couple of questions about the expanded alcohol service. So thank you so much. It looks like you're up, Deputy Chief. Thank you so much. This is a bit of a news to me that the city's already applied for the permit, and so maybe I'll ask the question this way: for those who live in Redmond and will observe something different about alcohol service areas in our city this summer, what will that look like, and for how long does that permit and renewal period, how long is that good for? I understand that the legislation does have some limits.
I'll answer the second part first. The permit for the city of Redmond, well, our take on the permit, it's good through 2027. City of Redmond is going to authorize expanded alcohol service from May 1st until the end of the year. Individual permits will designate a day of the week that probably a viewing party that would occur. And then, whether that would probably be communicated out through our social media channels, especially if a permit includes the potential for a road closure, for example, which is being discussed with some of the establishments downtown. Part of what this legislation allows for is multiple businesses under a shared permit to have a shared expanded alcohol service area onto the city's right-of-way. The whole purpose being community get together and enjoy a good time while watching the game. For the impacts on the community, it's just going to be mainly, our social media campaigns and the communication in that regard.
Okay, thank you. I believe that covers my question. I was really getting to what will this look like? And so you're saying in the right of ways, and say if a road is opened up for a pedestrian only area, that it will be under a shared permit. I'll be very curious to see what we learn from this experience. And so I look forward to that on the other side. Thank you.
No, and that's valid. And a lot of it, this is brand new. It's kind of a trial for the state. This is through 2027. If it's successful, we could see it indefinite. But what we'll really know is when the individual permits come in to see what they're asking for and what the city will allow. So it'll be a learning process for all of us.
Council Vice President.
Thank you, Mayor. Deputy Police Chief, you're back up again. I had a couple of community members while we're still in the conversation around the ALPR cameras, and the conversation then turned to World Cup. And while they were getting excited about that, there were a couple of instances over the past couple of weeks where community members have asked me about is our DFR program, our Drone First Responder program, is there going to be any shift in data collection in how we do it? And I explained to them that currently the policy is that any imaging that is captured, any data that is captured, that our DFR is looking looking out to the horizon as not to be picking up. But they still had questions as to whether or not there was going to be any changes to that policy or what data that we're collecting with the DFR during that time.
Right. For the ALPR and DFR, two separate conversations. For the DFR, there will be no change in our policy. As you pointed out accurately, as the drone is flying or responding to a scene, the view is of the horizon. So nothing on the ground is being captured or recorded. Once the drone arrives on scene, then the camera angles downwards and records whatever's going on the ground, which is retained in our digital evidence locker.
Thank you, Chief, because I'm sure that that's going to give a bit of peace of mind for that. So thank you for the clarification. Thanks.
Other questions? Councilmember Parkria.
Just a brief question as a follow-up to Council President's question on the libation zones is, have we received interest from businesses in the community with regards to these permits, or have we done outreach to them so that they know that this is an option that exists just because it is so new and so experimental?
Right. That communication and marketing, so to speak, is ongoing. We have had at least 2 meetings with the business community where we have explained this new legislation, including a couple business meetings, including one with the Mayor's Ambassador Group on December 9th or February 9th, where we are educating the business community. To answer your question, we are seeing some interest, not a lot of interest, but based on what I'm hearing is we can expect to see a couple, 3 businesses joining forces downtown to have an event where they can take advantage of the expanded alcohol service.
I think the legislation is, if you weren't paying attention, is a little surprising for some of our businesses, and so we're trying our best to get out the information to them. It still will take them, staffing and things like that to manage it, and so I think that for some businesses, it's a great thing, or could be a great thing, and for some businesses, it's just too big of a stretch for them to manage that. So I think we'll see kind of as things get nearer, but that was part of expanding it to the end of the year because World Cup is a month, but other businesses, the best time of year, the best weather time of year is a little later in the summer. And so it could be a good opportunity for some businesses to explore what that looks like to have that expanded sales, but or expanded reach. But we'll kind of see as things start to happen as businesses decide whether or not they want to endeavor in this.
Absolutely, and that makes sense. Thank you, Deputy Chief. And yeah, no, that makes sense. And they have to apply for 2 permits as well, it seems so. Yeah.
Any other questions tonight? Council Vice President.
One more. I kind of wish that it was I reversed the chief, but I was just thinking about it. Deputy Chief, in our previous conversation during Committee of the Whole, we had brought up domestic violence at the time, and I love that we're talking about human trafficking and how we see an uptick there. And what made me think about this just now was our conversation earlier, that we've got 50% of our assaults in Redmond right now are domestic violence. They start at home. And thinking about, with World Cup, we've seen in other countries where there's a definitive spike during World Cup, depending on which team wins or loses. And while we don't have necessarily the same soccer or football culture that, say, England has, have we started having conversations around expectations in an uptick in domestic violence?
Yeah, I even learned recently big businesses in the community like Microsoft are starting to, inform their employees, their staff about the different cultural norms in America than they're used to in other countries, especially in male-dominated violence. So I assume other companies like Microsoft are doing the same. But, when a crime is committed in Washington, then it's Washington law that prevails, and we will take, the necessary legal action on that. From a preventative standpoint, what the private businesses are doing, whatever the city can do to help educate, we'll take into account.
Thank you.
Any other questions for our team tonight? Well, thank you all so much. Really happy to hear all the preparation that we're doing, and I look forward to our next report in a month, perhaps?
May is our next
May is
scheduled
the
one.
next
We
one.
might come earlier. Thank you.
We'll see. Thank you so much, Deputy Director. All right, next up, we are on to Ombuds reports. Let us close out the month of January with Councilmember Kritzer, if she has anything left.
I don't have anything as ombuds. I probably have individual ombuds items, but I'll let others go first.
Great. And then we have for February, Councilmember Forsyth.
Thank you. It's been a good month so far. I have responded to an email about an impound fee and a medical emergency. Responded and waiting to hear back about the path under light rail and when that will reopen. We heard tonight from a community member that emailed us about beautification and cleanup volunteer efforts and Adopt a Street programs, which those of you that have been around a while, the Adopt a Street was something that I had brought up a while ago. So this reinvigorated my energy to get back on that topic. So I'm excited to work further on that with you all, hopefully at our next council retreat follow-up. And for personal ombuds reporting, I attended the meeting at the Interlake Sporting Association and toured the facilities on Sunday and had some good conversations. And looking into policing policies for our trans community and our LGBTQIA plus community, and having some follow-up conversations around that. I also attended the Housing Development Consortium King County Levy Exploratory Committee. That was a lot of words, but that was very interesting and encouraging, and I will keep you all updated on that process as it moves along.
Thank you. Any other ombuds items for the council? Council President.
Thank you. First, I want to acknowledge that we have lots of vacancies on our boards and commissions right now. So if you're interested, please check out our website. I had 7 visitors to my office hours last week. The topics included the Redmond Police Foundation, their advocacy and fundraising, code amendments, technology and data security, and a Redmond elementary school student who came to advocate for cleaner parks. So really appreciate her making the time. I continue to have conversations with candidates who participated in the recent council vacancy process and who were not chosen, and continue to explore options and ways for folks to engage. I also had a couple of good follow-up conversations with commission leaders who spoke with the council last week at our study session. Council Vice President and I were doing a quick work session last Friday morning, and we got interrupted not once but twice by enthusiastic residents who are supportive of the curb management study and sidewalk preservation in Redmond. So always fun to be stopped for good news and recognition of our awesome teams. I hosted a tour yesterday for other Eastside council members who wanted to learn more about Redmond's housing solutions and how those show up in action. And I met with One Redmond for a brief update on their work plan and overview of the proposed Mary Moore Arts and Sciences Center. I also visited the IKEA ribbon cutting with the mayor and Councilmember Kritzer. And as was mentioned, I participated in a couple of the Football for All events. I wanted to recognize particularly the staff for these events. The Football for All event that was featured the photographer. Some of these events, part of why we have invested so heavily in World Cup and the campaign of Redmond is Ready for the World, is to invite visitors to Redmond. And this event with the photographer, I walked around the room, just introduced myself, and I met people from Bothell and Bellevue and Beacon Hill and Woodinville, and just tons of people who came to Redmond for an evening to participate in that event. So congratulations to the team and all of their wonderful work on that. And I think that's about it. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Council Vice President.
Thank you, Mayor. In addition to our meeting and the kudos that we got from a couple of community members, continue having conversations with community members about our ALPR cameras, giving them clarification and where to find on the city's website where they can get clarifying information. I talked to a couple of residents about the appointment process and also other regional leaders as folks were taking note as far as how we were going through that process and how they could learn from what we did, as well as adopt some of the things for their municipalities as well. And I also talked to a couple of candidates that were part of the appointee process that did not move forward, and same as council president, letting them know how else that they could get involved. Last week, I also attended the Bellevue Downtown Association dinner along with the Port of Seattle. And one of the things that the keynote speaker was talking about was this concept of love notes to the city, and how cities as an organization can give these love notes to the community. And as we're listening to the things that staff has been putting together and is about to put together for World Cup, such as the banners or, anything that we can do to say, hey, we're so glad that you're here, because while there is a cost of what these things monetarily cost, then there's also the value that we get in making connections with our visitors and residents alike.
Thank you. Next, Councilmember Prakriya.
So a few updates. I attended the Sound Cities Association orientation along with Council President Stewart and Council Members Soni and Parsi. I also attended, through the visitors link, the first meeting of the Sound Cities Association's Public Issues Committee, as I am the alternate for Council President Stewart. I went to the opening of the Redmond Eye Clinic along with Council Member Soni. Last week, we had meetings as well with the fire and police chiefs, and I've had a number of conversations with community members about our ALPR and also about light rail.
Thank you. Councilmember Parsi.
I wanted to welcome the Year of Horse and extend my warmest wishes to all who are celebrating Lunar New Year. May this new year bring peace and prosperity to you and your families. This week, I also met with Dr. Morton regarding contamination near DTG site, and I had the Eastside Transportation Partnership meeting. And I received lots of feedback from community about privacy concerns that they had.
Thank you. Councilmember Soni.
As mentioned by Councilmember Prakriya and Councilmember Parsi, second, I was also on the SCA board orientation at CTAC. I also attended my first Eastside Transportation Partnership meeting along with Councilmember Parsi and Councilmember Kritzer as our alternate. And I was also at the Redmond Eye Clinic opening for this one, and have been having my several meetings with all the directors, and along with Councilmember Prakriya, we were for our fire station as well as our meeting with the Chief Louis. So this has been a great informative meetings for us, and looking forward for more.
Great, thank you so much. And Councilmember Kritzer.
I think all my colleagues have covered a lot of things, and many that I was there for, so I'm not going to cover all of it. I will note that some of the big topics I've been in discussion with folks about in different conversations have included ALPR, immigration, and concerns about federal issues, concerns about PFAS, some of the hot topics that have been coming up on council, and gathering feedback on that. As a reminder, I recently moved my office hours over to the Redmond Senior and Community Center, so go visit me the first and third Tuesday of the month from 3 to 4 at the lounge that's between the senior lounge and the big community room. Today I had 2 visitors, which was great, and we had some really good conversations about the teen center and the future process for that, as well as community engagement and ways to make sure that we're meeting our community needs, and also thinking about how we can work regionally to look at some of the other teen centers and opportunities, including the renovation of the Bellevue Family Y. And then also had some good conversations around data privacy as well. Thanks.
Great. Thank you. I think I've covered everyone, so I think we've covered ombuds. Next, we have committee reports. Are there any committee reports this evening? I know there's more. Let's start with Councilmember Kritzer. I'm sure she has a committee report.
I will just note as part of committee that I did attend last week. I think it was last week, or maybe it was the week before. I attended the Riot 8 and across the state Salmon Days in Olympia to advocate for our shared priorities of all the different entities that work on salmon recovery. Had a lot of really good conversations with legislators, and we got to actually meet with legislators across Riot 8, which includes 28 jurisdictions, so more than just kind of Redmond's districts, but a lot of good support for both funding for salmon recovery and also key bill that we're following that would ban the 6-PPD chemical from tires eventually, and a lot of good conversations. And we got to meet with Representative Zach Hall, who many of you may know before was a Issaquah City Council member and had served on Riot 8 and is now championing this bill, which has is hopefully moving forward. So we'll see how that goes. And then I'll also note that I am looking forward to, I met with staff to plan for my first meeting as LTAC chair, and I'll look forward to giving you all an update on that. But I think we'll be having some really good conversations around our lodging tax this year.
Great, thank you. I'm going to go down the line. Councilmember Soni, do you have any committee reports this evening to share?
Not major. It's we just had our meeting for the Parks and Environment Sustainability to set up the agenda, and the agenda has been finalized, and that's what will be coming.
Great, thank you. Okay. Councilmember Forsyth, any? No? Council Vice President Nueva Camina?
Councilmember Forsyth and I attended the Disability Board.
Yes, I do.
And there's nothing to report.
Great, thank you. And Council President.
Okay, thank you so much. As was mentioned by Councilmember Procria, we had our first Public Issues Committee meeting of the year. This year I'll be serving as Vice Chair and hoping to use that role to really be really engaged in agenda setting and making sure that we're having really timely and wonderful conversations this year. So basically, this meeting kind of set up for the year. Some of the key issues we know are coming up include regional utility rates, which I'll mention again in a second, next year's levy renewal for the Best Starts for Kids program, and the King County Transportation Benefit District conversation is coming back. Chair Balducci is planning to host a community hearing in Issaquah in the coming weeks. So when I do know about that date, I will be sure to share it in case anyone would like to attend. And I appreciate Councilmember Forsyth mentioning that she attended the meeting with HDC regarding the potential housing levy that is being proposed by that group. I would love to learn more offline about your experience there, and it is certainly something that we are tracking. There's a few levies regionally that are under consideration that have implications for cities with existing levies on those topics, so a lot to watch there. I also attended the Regional Water Quality Committee. We first and foremost had a report on Puget Sound water quality. It is, in fact, a committee that is supposed to monitor and uplift water quality across Puget Sound. Most of our work this year is on the wastewater plan. And the presentation on water quality around Puget Sound particularly highlighted the benefits and the success of the regulatory environment that despite exponential growth of the Puget Sound region, bodies of water like Lake Washington and like Puget Sound have actually experienced increases in their water quality, despite a lot of growth because of the good work that's been done. So that was a good way to kind of set up the conversation. Our primary topic of the meeting was the preliminary sewer rates. This is a really tough conversation, and as the council knows, please do be sure to check out the memo that Director Burt sent earlier this month. I believe it was February 11th that he sent a memo regarding utility rates and the ongoing conversation we're going to have this year. By way of example, just for sewer rates alone, the baseline conversation starts at year-over-year increases of 12.75% for the next several years. This is a really tough environment, and as a committee, we're interested in making sure that the investments in the rates are affordable for all of us. keep the service levels predictable and truly make the investments, given the regulatory concerns, that actually improve water quality. So much has already been done in that regard. So a lot of conversation to have, and I'm glad that, importantly, it looks like, from my perspective, the Public Works Department is setting us up for some great conversations around utility rates here in coming through the spring and the summer. I also attended the Sound Cities Association Deputy Mayors and Council Presidents meeting. A lot of the same topics that were covered at the Public Issues Committee, but I will say top of mind for that group was supporting local residents in the face of immigration fear and concern. So our council will actually be studying some action at our study session next week that was sponsored by Councilmember Forsyth. And if you get our city e-newsletters, you've also seen some recent communications from us on the topics of what our city is and can do to support families right now, and the council's investment in the rapid response dollars. And that is all. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Councilmember Kritzer.
Thank you. I thought of one other, but actually one follow-up. I'll also notice that I did get to attend SCA's pre-pick meeting with the Northwest Immigrant Rights Project, and if others weren't able to attend that, I don't know if they're going to share out the deck on that. They may have, but just make sure that the council gets a chance to look at that, because there was a lot of really useful resources and links that they shared out there. Took a couple screenshots myself just for some good ideas as we get into this work on our own council, also to learn from what other cities are doing. Just one other note is that as my last act of chair of the Eastside Transportation Partnership, I sent a letter to Senators Murray and Cantwell, as well as Representatives Schreier, Smith, and Del Bene on behalf of ETP, sharing out federal priorities for transportation with them that we worked on over the past year. So I haven't received a ton of feedback yet, but I'll let you all know if I get any interesting responses there.
Thank you. That's very timely because they're working on the surface transportation reauthorization this year. So probably very timely, and I'm sure that they will acknowledge it at some point when they can kind of get around to that moment, considering they're dealing with a shutdown right now. But that's great. I'm so glad you guys did that. I just had a couple of things to share. Let's see, where to start. I'm now chairing the Sound Transit System Expansion Committee, and we had our first meeting last week with me as chair, but we're dealing with some budgetary shortfalls and some long-term planning, so more to come on that. Still very grateful that Redmond was kind of on the leading edge of getting East Side network done, in part because we did such a good job of authorizing permitting and things like that so easily, and I still hold this up as a great model for other cities when they're dealing with a lot of sound transit issues. But so more to come on that. I was in Washington, D.C. a few weeks ago, and I did have the opportunity to meet with both Senators Murray and Cantwell, along with other mayors from our region, and talked with them about our priorities, and as well as, things going on in the federal government. And it was good to see both of them. Congresswoman Del Bene was not in town at the time. They were on recess that week. But it's always good to see them. They do great work for our state and our community, and we really did. I'm very grateful for Senator Murray and her assistance in getting us a grant for $2.5 million to help with our asbestos cement pipe that we need to replace. So more work with her coming, but yeah, we were just very fortunate to have such great senators for our state. I also had the opportunity to go to India, which I think all of you knew, and I met with Microsoft and Amazon in India, as well as companies that are Indian that have presences in Redmond. So Tech Mahindra and Tata Group both have people working for them here in Redmond. We are also able to talk with the U.S. ambassador to India just about an hour before they announced the tariff deal with India. So it was a really interesting transition going from talking with Indian companies and Indian community about the tariff situation, and then to go to the next day where a lot of it had been, at least on initially resolved. More to come on that. So that was a fascinating time to be there. But really amazing country. Redmond has a fantastic relationship with them, and hope to continue that. And I know that many of you have visited there recently as well, and Councilmember Soni was born in, I was in Delhi, and so I appreciate that we can continue that good relationship. And then the last thing I just wanted to mention, I was last week, the EPA changed their endangerment finding, in fact, removed it, which has to do with greenhouse gases and the ability to regulate emissions in our world, in our United States. And having just been in Delhi, where daily the air quality was around 300, and then thinking about not too long ago, LA, where people had a really hard time breathing because the air quality was so poor. It's not just disappointing, but there's long-term damage that can be done to our country and to people throughout the world if we don't change that direction that this current administration is going. So you will see a statement from me about the change in that, and working with our team here and also climate mayors about the importance of ensuring that our air is good quality, because we don't just need water to live, as we talked about tonight, we actually need air to breathe. So just want to share that with you all, and hope that legally there's some opportunity there to change that outcome for long-term air quality. So not to end on a bummer note, but there's a lot happening in the world right now. Any other committee reports or anything else this evening? All right, seeing none, the last item on our agenda, we don't have unfinished business, we have no new business. We do have an executive session for potential litigation, RCW 4230-1101I, for 20 minutes. Per state law, the executive sessions are closed to the public. Action will not be taken following the executive session, and the meeting will adjourn. I'm going to give us a couple minutes to get over there. So our meeting will adjourn at 9:10. Executive session participants attending remotely, please leave this meeting and join the executive session's Teams meeting for the first executive session and the only executive session. Thank you.